Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Fabric databases and why these they have to be one of the stupidest ideas to come along out of anyone in IT in probably the last 30 years. Okay, there's overwhelmingly ignorant. Okay, and by proxy, all the people that are all the U bumps and that are out there saying that the Fabric databases are the greatest thing ever, they are also either just insanely morally corrupt or they are also the stupidest people on the face of the planet. Okay, and I'm going to explain this in detail. I don't know why these things are the dumbest thing ever. I'm going to do it from several different perspectives. Okay. So let's get into it. So the big thing out there is like, oh my God, Fabric databases are the greatest thing ever. Now I can have my operational data stores, right, in the same place I have my analytical data stores. That is the craziest statement I think I've ever heard in maybe my entire career in IT. Okay. Because it has been universally accepted for decades that having your analytic workloads and your operational workloads in the same place is a stupid and bad idea. All right. So back in the day when people didn't know what the hell they were doing, right, they would have a transactional data store and that would hold their operational data for their application, right? That's what operational databases are for. Data stores are for. They're for back-ending an application. There's something going on up here, and this is the back-end data store for it. Operational data store. And people would try to run reports. So they're generating a bunch of data, and we need to get reports off of that. And they try to pull it out of the same operational data store. And they quickly realized that that was a bad idea because one, transactional data stores are not optimized for reporting and analytics at all. Two, all of that activity on trying to do these reports took away from the horsepower, right? The CPU, memory, all of that stuff of running the application and slowed the application down. And so people got smart and they're like, okay, well, let's take our analytic workloads and we'll put them over here, right? In a form that is more suited for reporting and analytics. Okay. And bonus, all of the CPU activity, memory, and stuff that we're doing to run reports isn't impacting our operational data store and in by proxy the application that's actually running that thing. Okay, so now what everyone is saying that is promoting Fabric databases, that's a stupid idea. We want to go back to the stupid bad old days where our analytic workloads impacted our operational data stores and thereby the applications that are running on top of those operations. So that is a completely stupid idea. Like that would happen back when people in IT didn't know what the frick they were doing. Okay. And we learned our lessons and created a model where that doesn't happen. But now, because of Fabric databases, all of a sudden, all of that wisdom is stupid and illogical and should never have happened. And no, having mixing and matching all of our operational data stores or analytic workloads is the right idea. Stupid. Okay, just that on the face of alone. If you don't understand anything about IT or anything about analytics and reporting versus operational data stores, just understand that keeping these things separate has always been a good idea. Putting them back together again flies in the face of everything we've learned about IT in the last 30 years. Okay? So that's why it's stupid. Number one. Okay. The next thing in terms of why it's stupid is it's a problem, it's a solution looking for a problem. And not only is it a solution looking for a problem, it's a solution looking for a problem within the larger context of Fabric, which is itself a solution looking for a problem, in my opinion. Right? The only problem that it's solving is that Microsoft is losing their butt when it comes to data analytics and data platforms, right? They were losing with Synapse to Databricks and Snowflake and all this other stuff, and so they slapped a new moniker onto the product, and away we go. Now it's better. But the problem is, so you're telling me that I'm going to put these databases, operational data stores, into a product designed for self-service and end users, right? Power BI. And you're saying that's a good idea? Now, again, in 30 years of doing IT, it has always been a bad idea to have users creating databases, right? That's how we ended up with all these Microsoft Access databases and these Excel spreadsheets that are basically databases, right? Because these end users, like we walled them off from being able to create SQL databases. So they're like, well, we'll just create this crappy Access database and we'll build these business applications on top of it, and it turns into a complete and utter IT nightmare, right? To have to support this garbage that's been created, right? Same thing with Excel. So we should be telling me like, oh no, no, we want to create more garbage, right? We want our end users to self-service and create databases and build these applications on top of it inside of our data analytics workload space to create more garbage, right? No, that's a bad idea. Bad idea. Stop. Okay. So if it's not for the end users to create their databases, right, and their crappy, applications that run on these crappy databases that they've created, right? If that's not who it's for, well, then it must be for the enterprise architects, right? The enterprise architects are the people that are looking at it and looking and say, how should we architect the next application that we're going to build? And you're going to argue with them is that they should build their back end of their database, right, in a data analytics platform, which is, as I pointed out earlier, bad idea, right? Any enterprise architect worth their salt is going to be like, no, right? Your stupid analytics workloads are going to impact the functioning of my application. No, I'm not signing up for that, right? So, but this is the argument that's going to have to be made is that no, enterprise architects, right? You should build the back end of this new application inside of our data analytics workspace here in Fabric. That's never going to fly. It's not going to fly just because of what I pointed out before, but if you just look at the decision guide and say serverless, right? So it's only serverless, right? You can't run anything business critical on serverless. Okay, that is not me saying that, right? Somebody who got into like giving me flack for saying you can't run business critical stuff on serverless. It's not me saying that. It's Microsoft saying that. If you go into the pricing calculator, you click Azure SQL Database, you add it in here. Okay, general purpose is this, you've got provisioned, you have serverless, right? General purpose, if you pick a service tier of business critical, you don't get the option to make it serverless because you can't run business critical stuff on serverless according to Microsoft. Okay? So enterprise architects, are they going to sign up? They're like, well, the application I'm building is business critical. Like it's going to be, part of the business and needs to run. Are they going to look at this and be like, oh, it's serverless and I can't run business critical stuff on serverless. So why would I do that? They're not going to use it, right? Okay. And then even further, go one step further on this. You're telling me, oh, it's serverless, so it can't run business critical, and it's not always encrypted and it's not audited, so it's insecure. What enterprise architect? They would have to have lost their complete and utter mind to say, oh, I want your data analytics workloads to impact my application that I'm building. And I want it to be insecure and I want it to not be business critical. Who on earth is Fabric Database for exactly? And why in the world are these people making a big deal out of it? All right, so one last thing. This is an article by Data Mozart. Now, most of it goes through and about how great that Fabric databases are or what they are and why you should use them and everything else. But if you scroll all the way down through this entire article, they get to this item here, SQL database in Fabric versus mirrored Azure SQL DB. And guess what the conclusion is that there's no difference. It's zero difference if you run a Fabric database and if you run mirrored Azure SQL DB, which means that I can have all the benefits of running a provisioned Azure SQL database, right? Or if I want to, I can run serverless, right, too. But guess what? If you just mirror it in Fabric, then it's exactly the same as if you just run the database in Fabric. So again, what is the big deal with Microsoft Fabric databases? You already basically had them. Now I realize I could have probably made 12 videos about how great Fabric databases are, right? Just how amazing they are. And I could have picked up like oodles of subscribers and oodles of views and all of that sort of. But I have like at least some tiny, teeny, weeny, little amount of self freaking respect, right? These people that are advertising for 5 days obviously have none. So that's all I have for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.